Forward with bombshell allegations. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Kristen Anderson and Summer Zervos are the latest to join a growing chorus of women who have gone public after Donald Trump denied ever making unwanted advances on women. Each of the two told her story today, with Anderson talking to the Washington Post about an experience she claimed she had with Mr. Trump at a popular nightclub in the early 90s.
The person on my right, who, unbeknownst to me at that time, was Donald Trump, put their hand up my skirt. He did touch my vagina through my underwear. Absolutely. And as I pushed the hand away and I got up and I turned around and I see these eyebrows, very distinct eyebrows of Donald Trump. And I got up and I moved and I continued to talk with my friends. And they said, "Oh, that's Donald Trump." I was like, "Ew, he's gross. He just put his hand up my skirt. That's not okay." And we all sort of brushed it off and moved on.
The story from Summer Zervos, which came out today, is more recent. It involved an alleged 2007 meetup with Mr. Trump. She described it at length during a press conference alongside attorney Gloria Allred earlier today. Here is some of what she said.
I met Mr. Trump when I was a candidate on The Apprentice in season 5. I had the utmost admiration for Mr. Trump, and even after I was fired, I continued to see him as a possible mentor and potential employer. In 2007, I was going to be in New York for a social obligation. I contacted Mr. Trump's office to see if he was available for lunch. I was informed that he could not have lunch, but that he would like to meet me with him in his office. When I arrived, he kissed me on the lips. I was surprised, but felt that perhaps it was just his form of greeting. We sat and spoke. He was extremely complimentary. He said he would love to have me work for him. Mr. Trump said he would be coming to Los Angeles soon, and he would contact me. He then called again days later to let me know that he was coming to Los Angeles. He again called me after he had just landed in Los Angeles. He asked me to meet him that evening at the Beverly Hills Hotel and asked me where I would like to have dinner. When I arrived, his security guard greeted me at the hotel. He walked with me to greet Mr. Trump. I assumed we were going to a restaurant in the hotel. Instead, I was taken to a bungalow. The security guard opened the door and I went in. I was standing in the entryway. To my left was a bedroom, and I saw Mr. Trump's clothes on the bed. I did not see him, but he greeted me with hello in a sing-song voice. It sounded like, "Hello." I waited for about 15 minutes until Mr. Trump emerged. He had his suit on. I stood up, and he came to me and started kissing me open-mouthed as he was pulling me towards him. I walked away and I sat down in a chair. He was on a love seat across from me, and I made an attempt at conversation. He then asked me to sit next to him. I complied. He then grabbed my shoulder and began kissing me again very aggressively and placed his hand on my breast. I pulled back and walked to another part of the room. He then walked up, grabbed my hand, and walked me into the bedroom. I walked out. He then turned me around and said, "Let's lay down and watch some telly." He put me in an embrace, and I tried to push him away. I pushed his chest to put space between us, and I said, "Come on, man, get real." He repeated my words back to me, "Get real," as he began thrusting his genitals. He tried to kiss me again, with my hand still on his chest, and I said, "Dude, you're tripping right now," attempting to make it clear I was not interested. He said, What do you want?" And I said, "I came to have dinner." He said, "Okay, we'll have dinner." He paced around the room. He acted like he was a bit angry. Dinner was delivered to the bungalow. When dinner arrived, he asked me to wait in a small room. I felt that he did not want the waiter to see me. After the table was set, he beckoned me to come out. We shared a club sandwich. The conversation then focused on the fact that I had a mortgage on my home, which I told him was in good standing. He then abruptly said he was tired and that he needed to go to bed and ended the conversation.
This makes 8 women now who claim that Donald Trump harassed them. 7 of them coming forward since Trump defended his behavior at the presidential debate just 5 days ago, claiming he never has groped women. Now, for the second day in a row, the presidential candidate is offering an emphatic denial of the charges.
As you have seen, right now I am being viciously attacked with lies and smears. It's a phony deal. I have no idea who these women are. These are lies being pushed by the media and the Clinton campaign to try and keep their grip on our country. They are all false. They're totally invented, fiction.
Joining me now, David Wohl, attorney and Donald Trump supporter, and Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, Megyn.
Hi, Megyn.
So, David, you and I are both lawyers. You still practice law. I don't. But
you still know your stuff, Megyn.
The problem is, we don't know whether this is true. And Donald Trump is being accused and tried in the court of public opinion. And we can't really we can't know what the truth is. There's not going to be a judge or a jury to resolve this before November 8th. But if what these women say is true, then we're not just dealing with a flawed presidential candidate, we're dealing with a sexual predator. So how are the American people to make sense of that in the next 3.5 weeks?
Well, I would never stipulate that what they're saying is true, Matt. Megyn, Miss Anderson, for example, this happened, she says, 24 years ago. She said it may have been at the China Club. She's not sure exactly if it was there or somewhere else. This is the full interview. She says she doesn't remember who she was with. There were no witnesses. Something that traumatic, what she describes, Megyn, is a felony digital penetration. You would remember.
She didn't say penetration.
Exactly. Well, she said, okay, touching. It's close enough. I mean, it's a sexual battery. It's a felony. And she would remember who she's with. She would remember which club she's at.
You don't know
Megyn,
that.
And the second, Miss Zervos, by the way, she was reading directly from a script. It looked like she was reading a book. Hard to imagine there's a lot of credibility when she reads directly from a script.
David,
because, Megyn, why don't you just speak from the... Why can't she just tell the story like she would on a witness stand?
Right, because she was nervous and she wanted to get it right. The stakes are very high.
Couple that with the WikiLeaks release today of communications between the Democrat National Committee, Megyn, several operatives. That's fine. Okay, it's just hard to imagine much credibility, Megyn. I've represented people for 27 years who have been charged falsely with allegations like this. You would be stunned at the frequency with which people are charged with embellishments, with completely false allegations, with half-truths. Cases are dismissed. Cases are never filed. It's shocking.
That is true. Julie, what he just said is true. I mean, women do make false claims, and we've seen that over and over again. We look at the Duke rape case, right? And look at the thing, what happened on UVA. I mean, and they can go a lot further than these women have gone in the claims. But Donald Trump was the one who first told us he does this to women. Grab them by, right? He's the one who said it. And now, and just kiss them without even asking. And now, one by one, these women have come forward from decades ago. I mean, every decade is covered of his adulthood, saying, me too, me too, me too, in great detail. And if this is an orchestrated smear, it's one hell of an orchestrated smear.
Well, yes, and let's put aside the fact that this may or may not be true, and Donald Trump deserves the presumption of innocence. What was most startling to me is not that these women are coming out now, because let us even assume that this is some orchestrated smear, which is hard to believe. But let's stipulate that it is. What was interesting to me is Donald Trump's reaction today to these allegations. Essentially, he was saying some of these women are not hot enough.
Can we have that sound? Let's play it for the audience so they know what we're talking about.
Take a look. You take a look. Look at her. Look at her words. You tell me what you think. I don't think so. When you looked at that horrible woman last night, you said, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was sitting with him on an airplane, and he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
Go ahead, Julie.
As I said, let's put aside these allegations and let's just take him at his word. Do you have to be a supermodel to be sexually harassed or assaulted? Is that where we are, that Donald Trump is basically saying that unless you're Claudia Schiffer or somebody of that level, that women would never get assaulted by anybody because they're simply not hot enough to be assaulted? I mean, you know, that's where I think women have trouble relating to anything that he's saying. Because again, even if you give him the presumption of innocence, his words are so damning, they're so offensive, they're so viscerally insulting that there's not much else to say about these allegations other than he dug his own hole deeper and deeper today by making the comments that he made.
Why is he talking about the looks of the women involved, David?
Well, when you hit Mr. Trump with a lie, with a slanderous, libelous allegation like this woman did, and that's his position, then he's going to hit back twice as hard, Megyn, and he doesn't hold back.
By calling you ugly? That's the way he's going to handle it?
You know what? Compare what she said about what he did to what he said to her. There's no real comparison. Yes, it was kind of a teenage remark, I'd say. I wouldn't counsel him to talk like that, but that's the way he is. He will hit you back twice as hard when you hit him with a non-truth, with an untruthful allegation, which that's his position. And so,
let me just ask you, David,
all
before we
bets are
go.
off.
Does it give you any pause? I mean, because as I said at the top, we don't know which is true. One of these two things is true. Either he has been very unfairly accused, or he is a predator. Does it concern you at all that option 2 is still in play?
No, because I've met him. I've know this man. I've talked to him. I've seen him interact with my children.
The strain of
He's
him.
A wonderful, good man, Megyn. I wouldn't know the strain of.
But
everybody could have skeletons in the closet, Megyn. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I know his character.
To their guy friends.
And the character of someone who does this is not Donald Trump's character. That's all there is to it.
May I say something about this? I grew up in the 1980s with Dr. Cliff Huxtable, the beloved dad of all of America, and look where Bill Cosby is today with his allegations. So you knowing somebody and meeting them man to man is not exactly experience, is what you know.
Has Bill Cosby been convicted?
Secondly, let me just make another point. The other point I want to make is, listen, insulting a woman's looks, we're not 12 years old. I've been insulted, Megyn, I'm sure you've been insulted. Insulting our looks is not something that's going to make us curl up in a ball and make us cry. If that's where he's coming back and hitting twice as hard, that's a damn bad defense, I have to say. I mean, what is that other than a schoolyard taunt that doesn't work on adult women? That's ridiculous.
Listen, having said all that, you have to keep in mind that he has no time to defend himself. He's out there trying to run a presidential campaign and has been placed in an impossible situation. Who placed him there? Was it him and his own behavior?
Megyn,
or somebody
else? Is next.
That is for
the good
you,
news is on Wednesday, Megyn. On Wednesday, Chris Wallace is going to be a legitimate debate moderator. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you, Megyn.
A couple of days ago, in a fiery column on FoxNews.com, a young woman by the name of Ying Ma defended Donald Trump, declaring herself an unabashed fan of the Republican nominee. She wrote, quote, "Strangers and friends alike have wondered how a highly educated Chinese-American woman could possibly support a man widely condemned as racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, and Islamophobic. It's not that complicated, really. I like the candidate and what he stands for, and I reject the caricature propagated by the mainstream media and his opponents." With me now, Ying Ma, who is also deputy director of the Committee for American Sovereignty, a pro-Trump super PAC. Ying, good to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's just start.
Megyn, great to be with you as well.
Let's start there, right? Because I think a lot of women out there are saying, how could she be behind? How could any woman support him at this point when you see the number of women coming forward and accusing him? And we'll just start there and ask you that.
Sure. Well, Megyn, I think the allegations of sexual assault are very serious. They're very disturbing at this point. I know as much as you know, which is what we hear and see in the press. And Mr. Trump obviously has denied all charges categorically. So we simply don't know exactly what went on. Obviously, I don't deny that they are very disturbing allegations, but I support Donald Trump. And when I wrote that column, I listed all the reasons why I support him. There are very serious issues that this country faces. We've got a lot of challenges, and I believe he's the man who would be the right person.
Yeah, because you wrote this sort of before the sexual assault allegations were coming out.
Indeed, indeed.
But there was still a lot of controversial stuff that he had done and said prior to that, and you still said this is not a deal breaker for me. Explain why.
Sure. Well, let me start with all the controversial stuff that he said and done. I think that, from my point of view, just because somebody says controversial things doesn't disqualify him. The left has sort of suffocated our public debate and our private discourse for a very long time, that you're allowed to say certain things about women, about minorities, about religious groups, and nobody can even have an honest conversation anymore. And I think one of the reasons why Donald Trump has resonated with so many Americans is that he is considered to be an authentic person who is willing to tell the truth. A lot of times he says things that are very different from what other politicians would say, but the American people understand that he's speaking from the heart, and that's actually one of the reasons why he has tremendous appeal. And so one of the main reasons why I like him is that he is politically incorrect. Just because I'm a woman, just because I'm a minority, just because I'm an immigrant does not mean that I need the left to coddle me the way that it preaches.
Ying, let me ask you, if 10 more women came forward between now and November 8th, would it change your view of him?
I think these are very serious allegations, Megyn. I don't deny that at all. But let me also say that even though the media has covered this so much wall-to-wall coverage in the last few days, I don't remember CNN, NBC, ABC ever interviewing any of the victims who alleged that Bill Clinton assaulted them. I don't remember ABC interviewing Juanita
Some
Broderick.
have said today, I will say this, some have said that they asked and were refused. Right here on this program, we interviewed Kathleen Willey, and we have that. But Ying, what's the name of your book? Because it sounded very interesting.
The name of my book is Chinese Girl in the Ghetto, and it talks about my family's journey from communist China to inner city Oakland, California.
And pulling yourself up and relying on yourself to improve your life, which is a message that resonates with everybody. I got to run because we have a tight show tonight, but it's great to see you.
Thank you so much.
So we also have a new bombshell from WikiLeaks tonight involving the Clinton campaign and its connection to some very ugly questions about President Obama, his faith, and his drug use. Have you heard about this? Plus new revelations and an alleged leak of debate questions. We'll dig into exactly how a copy of the question asked by Roland Martin ended up in the hands of Donna Brazile, who was advising the Democrats. Plus, Donald Trump today called out a Mexican billionaire